Hi, folks. I hope the first week has gone well for you. Um, there's a couple of items that are related to this week's reading in chapter one and two um, that relates to indigenous peoples, Native Americans in North America. One of them has to do with our textbook, and when it talks about the origins of the first people to migrate and settle in the Americas. The textbook actually, its publication date means that it came out before some really interesting discoveries and analysis that's pushed dramatically back um, the confirmed date for people in the Americas. The textbook references the Clovis theory, which goes back to the early 20th century, which was the gospel of archaeology and anthropology in America for generations, and used to be that the story was that the first Americans migrated into North America roughly 12,500 years ago at the end of the last ice age, when an ice-free corridor opened up that allowed populations to move from Siberia and Alaska down into the area where the lower 48 is, and then further south into Central and South America. And um, the so-called Clovis people made very distinctive fluted spear points that were associated with mammoth kills at the end of the last ice age. And so you had this very kind of neat model that said that the people that made that technology, which was found from the Chesapeake Bay all the way basically to California, that the Clovis people who made these fluted, large, beautiful spear points, first found at Clovis, New Mexico, that they're the first Americans. We now know that it's much more complicated than that. There's sites in South America that are older, like Palo Verde, that are older than 12,500 years. But the real bombshell has come just in the past few years, where human fossilized footprints were found out in New Mexico near the White Sands National, it's White Sands Missile Base for the military, and then the White Sands National Park. And these footprints are at a location called Lake Ontario, which is a dry lake that once had water and was teeming with life. And the footprints have been dated now reliably due to organic material that's been found with them to between 21 and 23,000 years old. So there's actually the footprints of extinct animals, megafauna that are no longer here, put down at the same time that the human beings were walking around. It's really a cool story. Connected more to directly to environmental history, there's a whole issue of the extent to which indigenous people alter the environment. And the textbook is correct in saying that Native Americans do alter the environment in which they lived. Certainly not to the extent that modern populations have been affecting the environment for the past few hundred years. Much more sustainable in terms of the footprint of human beings. So the textbook talks about how fire was used to clear out the brush in eastern forests to allow better forage for deer. Where I live on the Great Plains, the tallgrass prairie was regularly managed by native people who burned the prairie again to encourage fresh growth of grass that would encourage buffalo and other animals to be here. So native people certainly are engaging the environment, but then there's a question of, do we have scenarios in which sort of human mismanagement or the impact of people cause sort of disaster or catastrophe? In the Americas, the whole mystery of the disappearance of the Maya, the high civilization that existed down in parts of Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala. Maya cities collapsed hundreds of years before Columbus, before Hernan Cortez or any of the conquistadors arrived. And there are some theories that say that overpopulation and pressure on the land could be part of that story. Also in the Four Corners region of the American Southwest, the disappearance of Anasazi settlements is clearly associated with drought, but there's again some speculation that that human land use can be part of the story of abandonment of some early settlements. Certainly less strong than the modern world that we live in, where human beings are having huge impacts that are clear to the environment. Hope that your first week is going well, and I'll talk to you folks later.